Well, welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jim. I'll be your pilot around the island this afternoon. While we're getting ready to go, though, I have to give you a little bit of a safety briefing according to the FAA to let you know where everything's at, so I'll go ahead and do that. The exits, of course, are the doors. To open them normally, it's this handle at the very back. Just push down the forward end of it. It'll swing open all by itself. There's also an emergency jettison handle at the forward part of both front doors. That's that red handle. If you had to use this, just rip off the cover, pull the handle to the rear. It disconnects the hinges. The door comes right off. Both front doors do that. So that's emergency only. The fire extinguishers over here on the floor on my right side. First aid kit and survival kits are just under the back seat. Need to keep your seatbelts on throughout the flight. No smoking. You're wearing life jackets in case we go over water. And the aircraft's, anytime you see me talking and don't hear anything, though, it's because I'll be talking on the radio with other aircraft or control towers and quite a few people around Maui. So you won't be able to hear any of that stuff. We'll be able to leave here in just a second as soon as Jason makes sure everybody and everything is clear. Well, as we get off the little airport back there, what there is of it, these are all pineapple fields up on this end of Maui, of course. You've probably been around this area and seen all that. There's 2,300 acres of them on this end of the island. It's one of our primary agricultural crops, the other being sugar, of course. Nothing is indigenous to a volcanic island, with the exception of lava. Everything else comes from somewhere else. They think that pineapples were first introduced into these islands by accident from a Spanish shipwreck. Over the years, they've done a lot of experimenting and have just about settled on the South American variety now throughout Hawaii. It's called a cayenne pineapple, harvested about every 24 months, every 2 years. You can see the plant doesn't get too tall when it's mature, but because of the very unusual size and shape of the fruit, you have to pick it by hand, one by one. Pretty labor-intensive operation. You'll see some of the fields plowed up because of a very unusual characteristic of pineapple that most people don't realize. You only get to harvest it 3 times. The first time you pick the fruit, that's when you get the big one, about 4 or 5 pounds. The second and third harvest, you're only going to get 1 or 2 much smaller, much sweeter pineapples. And after that, you have to dig up the field and replant it again. The part they replant is that green part right off the top of the fruit. They call that the slip. There's no such thing as a pineapple seed, basically. Now, most things that you see, vegetation-wise in Hawaii, it looks like it kind of fits in. Sometimes you see some things that don't look like they fit in. Like, well, up ahead of us, some big stands of Norfolk pine growing up here. They don't actually call it a Norfolk pine in Hawaii, they call it a Cook pine. It was brought here by Captain Cook. I know it sounds kind of funny, a British sea captain was out planting trees, but he had a good plan. He thought that if he ever came back to Hawaii someday in the future, he could use these trees as a replacement mast for ships. If he had some extra ones, even better. He could use those or sell those to other ships and need a new mast. So it was a good plan. This didn't work out like he thought it would. Captain Cook was killed on the Big Island of Hawaii before he ever had a chance to return to England. And if you ever go over to the Big Island, there is a Captain Cook monument supposedly where he was killed. And that little piece of land where it sits is the only piece of real estate still owned in the United States by the country of England. Well, we're climbing up the side of the West Maui Mountains, and this entire end of Maui, the West Maui Mountains, is the older part of it by far. Estimated to be between 1.5 and 3 million years old. This volcano is extinct. The name of the mountain is Pu'ukukui. It means Candle Nut Hill. It's 5,788 feet tall, a little over a mile. And there's my house. Not really. It used to be a private residence, and this is state property, so the state bought it, and I don't know what they use it for now. You'll find vast differences in both ends of Maui, the east and the west. Being so much older here in the west end, it's a lot of deeply eroded emerald green valleys and really aged quite well. On the eastern end, very young, and it looks a lot like the Big Island of Hawaii over there. Very, very few, in fact only one erosion valley. It's very small. Mountains in Hawaii lose 2 inches per year just to erosion. Eventually, of course, they return to the sea. As you can see, it's not too far from all the resorts and the paved roads. You're in virtual wilderness up here. They're in the process of building a nature trail up here somewhere. They haven't completed it, though. This valley is called Honokehau, named after the number 2 son of King Kamehameha the Great. It's the longest valley on Maui. It's about 8 miles long. No roads or trails, though. This type of a valley with the real steep sides and very deep and narrow at the bottom is called a cathedral valley. When you get deep in the mountains, this is normally covered with clouds. It's just unusually clear today, but you'll find all kinds of ferns. Over 100 varieties have been documented on Maui. There's a very good chance you've already seen this valley before, just didn't recognize it up here in the air. If you saw the movie Jurassic Park, you did see it. They did a couple of scenes in this valley for that movie. They started filming Jurassic Park here on Maui, then they moved to Kauai. About the middle of filming up there were hit with Hurricane Iniki, so they moved back to the rainforest near Hana and finished off. All the scenes that were filmed here on Maui were filmed by Blue Hawaiian helicopters. Occasionally you see some like little small silver green looking plants dotting the terrain back there. Well, we left them all now, but there's some more up on the top. Very small, about the size of a softball, kind of silver looking. That's the silver sword. You only find it 3 places in the world. Right here, the top of Haleakala, in the crater that is, and on Mauna Kea, on the Big Island of Hawaii. And that's all there is. See, they put a fence around it, not because somebody's going to steal them, but because wild goats up here, and deer and things that might eat them. This valley is normally full of clouds because it's the Waihe'e Valley. It means gathering place of waters. Known to be one of the wettest places on Earth with an average rainfall of over 400 inches per year, but officially it's only the 2nd wettest place in the United States. The very back corner of the Waihe'e Valley was called the Wall of Tears by the early Hawaiians. They believed that if you hiked in here, and it would take you about 3 to 4 days of hard hiking. You may not see this place because of all the rain it normally gets here, but if you did get to see the Wall of Tears, it would wash away all your problems. These little trickling waterfalls come right out of the cliff all year long. Now, I did say at over 400 inches of rain per year, this is only the second wettest place in the U.S. If you're wondering where in the United States it rains more than that, it's also in Hawaii, on the island of Kauai. I have a valley up there that gets about 600 inches of rain per year. Got a little landslide right there. There's an old trail that follows this ridge in front of us, and it goes all the way to the summit of the mountain. There's one man that gets paid as his job weekly, once a week it is. He walks up this trail all the way to the summit of the mountain. There's a rain gauge up there. He reads the rain gauge to record the rainfall on the top of Pu'ukukui. There's Haleakala on the other end of the mountain, of the island, House of the Sun. Now, that volcano is not extinct, it's just asleep. 207 years ago it last erupted. In front of us, we're going to enter the most important valley in Maui's history. This is the Iao Valley. It's spelled I-A-O, and the word means cloud supreme. This is where King Kamehameha the Great fought his final battle when he was trying to conquer Maui. And it was a tremendous battle. About 3,000 warriors were killed in this valley during that battle. Ultimately, it turned out to be good for Hawaii because King Kamehameha was a very good leader, but he was also a very vicious warrior. Also rumored to be buried in hidden caves in this valley are some of the bones of ancient Hawaiian kings, and they've never been found. According to Hawaiians, the bones are the most important part of a person because it contains the most mana, or spirit. Every time we cross a little ridge line, though, we enter a different valley when you're into the interior of the mountains. So as we cross this little ridge, we'll enter the Waikapu Valley. If you follow the little stream out of the Waikapu Valley, it takes you right into the town of Waikapu. And just over on the right side of Waikapu, you'll see like a circular arrangement of crops. There's buildings right in the middle. That's the Maui Tropical Plantation. As we come out of the Waikapu Valley, you'll see, well, there's two golf courses right here at the bottom of the mountains, but a real pretty clubhouse on the Waikapu Golf Course and Country Club right here. The plans for this building was originally to be a house for Marilyn Monroe, but she died before it could ever be built, so they adapted the plans and instead built the Waikapu Country Club. So if you ever get over this way, take a closer look at that. It's a real pretty building. All the bright green fields out in the Central Valley is all sugar cane. Well, you see, on this side of it, there's a few pineapple fields intermingled, but we occasionally get a little busy in the Central Valley because we're under radar control here. As you can see, the Hawaiian DC-9 out in front of us heading to the Honolulu airport. So sometime I'll be talking and they interrupt me right in the middle, and I'll forget what I was talking about before I get back to you. There's an old abandoned naval air station out to our right out there, not too far past the road. You can still see those white lines. Well, that's because they converted it over to the Maui Raceway Park. That's our one and only drag strip on Maui now. But it used to be a naval air station. This road right in front of us, since it used to go right past the naval air station, it still goes fairly close to the modern airport. It's always been close to airports, so they called it the Mokelele Highway. It means flying machine or airplane. And those trees, if you get a chance to drive by them, they're called Willy Willy trees. Willy Willy in Hawaiian means intertwining. If you look at the trunks of the trees, they do intertwine. That's why they named them that. We're coming up on the Pu'unene sugar mill up ahead of us. Kind of a funny word, but translated it makes more sense. Pu'u is a hill, the Nene is a state bird of Hawaii, that's a goose. So this is the Goose Hill Sugar Mill. Belongs to C&H Sugar, California and Hawaii. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's the Honolulu airport ahead of us. This is the main airport on Maui. You see all the big carriers operate on the left side over there. The helicopter air terminal is in the lower right side. And down at the other end next to the control tower, that's the general aviation ramp. We're going to be landing at the heliport over here, our main building, and somebody's going to come out, escort you inside, or out there somewhere so we can get some fuel. Then they'll reload you and we'll continue on. So quite a bit to see. There's a real popular beach park just outside the airport. This is Kanaha Beach Park. Not much wind today though, so the swell was supposed to be increasing more than what it has so far, so were a lot of surfers out today. Of course, this is Kahului, the major city on Maui, the only deep water seaport. Pretty much the industrial center as well. Population is about 12,000. If you've been looking for the big mall, this is where you find it, right up here, up the main road and on the left. Not the big buildings, that's a warehouse, but off to the right of it. That's the Kahumanu Mall, renovated about 2 years ago, and they have 97 stores. There are actually two cities over here. There's a little bit of a break still between them off to our right, and that's Waikapu, or Wailuku, I'm sorry. Waikapu's ahead of us. Wailuku is the county seat, though, of Maui County. We have the largest county in Hawaii. It consists of 4 islands, Maui, Molokai, Lanai, and Koho'olawe, with Maui the population center of the county, obviously. 113,000 permanent residents on Maui, 6,700 on Molokai, and 2,500 on Lanai. 113,000 would rank Maui number 3 in the state, behind Oahu and the Big Island. Big Island's now got 130,000. They overtook Maui about 5 years ago. Actually, this Maui Tropical Plantation off to our right here is the second most visited site on Maui. They have a nice little sort of a train ride. It's not a train, but it goes all around all the crops that they grow here, and they give a brief description and tell where things are from and everything. About a 35-minute ride. Well, this is where we departed the West Maui Mountains earlier as we went to get some gas over the airport. This is the Waikapu Valley. The word wai, W-A-I, means water in Hawaiian. Kapu is forbidden law or forbidden. So for some reason or another, they call this forbidden waters. If you happen to wonder who the music is by, this is a CD made by the group called Hapa, H-A-P-A, local group in Hawaii. Real popular group. They only made 2 albums so far in their career. It took them 5 years to make the first one. This is the first one. Now again, every time you cross a big ridge in the interior of the mountains, you enter a different valley. So let's see where we come out here. As you leave Waikapu, that's Iau to the right, and Olawalo off to the left. There used to be an ancient trail through these valleys. It hasn't been used since like the 20s. Now, in accordance with Hawaiian tradition, just like Waikapu, that other little valley, if you have a town out here, you'd probably name it after this valley. And there is a town out there. It's in those trees near the ocean. That's the little town of Olawalo. But we're going to turn left into a bigger canyon called Ukamehami. If you like to hike a little bit, this is a good valley to hike into. If you hike about a mile up the trail from the low road out by the ocean, there's a stream and a trail both come back into the valley. You can hike about a mile up that trail into the valley and find petroglyphs right on the cliffs right next to the trail. Petroglyphs are ancient Hawaiian drawings. And they're not protected or fenced off or anything. They're right there by the trail. You can see a large island straight out ahead of us. That is Koho'olave, the island the U.S. Navy used as a target for about 50 years. They just turned that back over to the state May the 6th, 1994. And another very small island, a little further over to the left, out in the middle, that's Molokini. A real popular spot to snorkel and scuba dive. In fact, on the average day, you'll find about 2,000 people at Molokini. They rank it number one, or the number 1 snorkeling spot in Hawaii, and Skin Diver magazine ranks it number 6 in the world. Of course, you guys are staying up at the north end of the west side, so you've already seen Lanai. That's the Pineapple Island, up slightly to our right. Purchased by James Dole in 1922 for $1.1 million. Pretty good deal. And eventually had the largest pineapple plantation in the world over there, 12,000 acres. Not today, though. Much cheaper pineapples from other places really hurt business for Dole on Lanai. And today they only have 100 acres of pineapple growing there. That's exclusively for the use of the 3 hotels that are on the island. There's one in Lanai City, and there's a Club Lanai, and there's an older, well, there's 2 in Lanai City. Actually, one very old hotel there. You can see a little bit of a difference in the vegetation on this side of the mountains as opposed to the other. It's a lot lower growth and looks a lot more like grasses. There's actually a lot of cactus growing over here. This is the very dry or downwind side of the mountains. It only gets about 20 inches of rain per year normally. And it gets that in the winter. So It has rained over here a few times the last couple of months and just kind of turned green overnight. When summer gets here, it's hot and dry, and it'll turn brown just about as quick. Now, the main road around this side of Maui is called the Hanoa Pi'ilani Highway. Pretty long word. But what it means is the bays of Pi'ilani. He was a king here on Maui, and he ruled here during the 1500s. But the reason they named the road after him is because he was the first king in the history of Maui to rule the entire island. And he took advantage of that and had a road built all the way around Maui. It was called the King's Trail. This modern road pretty closely follows the original King's Trail. This road was built in the 50s and renovated many times since then. Now it felt like we crossed the wind line there, where the West Maui is no longer shielded us from the trade winds blowing today. It's still pretty light. We're coming up on a little town of Lahaina. Most people know about Lahaina, a very important place a long time ago. This was the royal capital of Hawaii for about 20 years. That was during the rule of King Kamehameha III. It was also considered to be the whaling capital of the world in the early 1850s. The word Lahaina means cruel sun. Give you an idea what the weather's like over here in July and August. Very historic town, a lot of things to see and do in Lahaina, but it's a very old town, so the roads are kind of narrow. Best thing to do is just try to go down near the center square. That's out to our right about the left half of the marina. And if you can find a parking place around there, you can just go walking all over Lahaina from there. If you start right in the center square itself, you'll see a great big tree right behind that sort of beige two-story building with a brown roof. Well, that building is the old courthouse, but the big tree right behind it, that's the largest banyan tree in the state of Hawaii. It covers 3/4 of an acre, planted by a guy named William Brown in 1873. William was the sheriff at that time, and they were commemorating the 50th anniversary of the arrival of the missionaries in Lahaina when they planted it. Pretty amazing tree. It has 9 major trunks underneath it. The big red roof building, kind of to the left of the center square, it's sort of U-shaped. That was the first hotel on Maui when it opened in 1901, the Pioneer Inn. And it was the only hotel in Maui until the mid-1950s. It's still the Pioneer Inn, but there's just a lot of different shops around the lower story of it today. There's the Carthaginian, the last ship down here. That's the only full-size replica of an 1850s whaling vessel in the world. You can go out on that boat and look around. If you go downstairs in the boat, there's a lot of telephones down there. You can pick them up and listen to the sounds the humpback whales make. A little further down Front Street, you'll find the Hard Rock Cafe in Maui. And the Planet Hollywood. They even have cheeseburgers in paradise. We're passing right now, that little green building, 2-story. Of course, all kinds of shops all the way down the road. Right here where the road kind of makes a right turn, if you turn left, come about 3/4 of the way down the road, you'll see some Japanese-style buildings, like with the 3 roofs on that one and a couple of others, pagoda style. But as we kind of line up on that Japanese building, just beyond it, right beyond the steeple, there's a Buddha sitting on a big cement platform. That's the largest Buddha outside of Japan. That's the Jodo Mission, by the way. You want to come down and see that? That's pretty amazing. And then you come to the big gray building. That was a pineapple cannery a long time ago. And then they closed it, renovated it, reopened it as the only fully enclosed, totally air-conditioned mall on Maui, the Cannery Mall. Before getting too far up this way, a lot of people come here to Lahaina and they look up at the mountains, they see a big L up on the hillside, and I'm sure they're probably puzzled and probably make up an answer and then go on home. Well, actually, Lahaina is known to have had the very first public school west of the Rocky Mountains for the U.S. The name of the school, Lahaina Luna, opened in 1843. That's actually the mark of the graduating class 1996, I think, this case. Lahaina High School, still open. Every year the senior class goes up and refurbishes the L with lime, and then they put their graduating class year in it, so it'll always be there when you come back. The old Pioneer Sugar Mill up in the downtown area in the center there. They own all this sugar on this side of Maui, all these bright green fields, 6,400 acres of it, and from that they produce about 50,000 tons of raw sugar per year. That's about a fourth of what Maui produces. Year ending 95, Maui produced 201,000 tons of raw sugar that year. This is a big flood control ditch coming down. Used to flood a lot down here in the lower part of the Lahaina, but this helped a lot until a couple months ago, and it flooded again. Well, we're coming up on the northern end of Lahaina, and there's just one group of buildings as you leave town. That's Lahaina Civic Center. If during your vacation you decided to move to Maui, then you'll need to go there. That's where you get your driver's license, on this side of the island. Straight ahead of us, of course, the Kaanapali Resort area. The first planned destination resort of West Maui. It opened officially in 1963 when they opened the Sheraton. After that, they followed with a lot of fine hotels like the Hilton, the Marriott, the Westin Maui, Kaanapali Ali'i, the Whaler, the Royal Lahaina, Royal Kaanapali, Kaanapali Shores. Just to mention a couple of them. But it's a beautiful PGA golf courses, a shopping area called Whalers Village. They even have a Whalers Museum here at Kaanapali. And you probably saw the golf courses on TV a couple of months ago. They played the Kaanapali Seniors Classic here at these courses, and it was televised on ESPN. The Sheraton, of course, was the first and the oldest hotel here at Kaanapali since they opened in '63, and it was built on black rock. That's the rocks that break up the shoreline here at Kaanapali. This, about 3 years ago, they tore the Sheraton down, and they rebuilt a new one. It just opened this past Thanksgiving, and this one is about 5 times bigger than the old Sheraton this time. Black Rock, where the Sheraton, still part of it, sits on it, according to Hawaiian legend, is where departed souls jump off to the other world. I don't know much about that, but it's a good place to snorkel around. And the old Sheraton used to have part of their luau. They had some cliff divers that would jump off of the off Black Rock into the ocean below. You can kind of go by groupings as you go up the coastline here, looking at the different areas. Where this is Honokawai, just to our left. Big pink buildings, Embassy Suites, which opened here in 1989. Kind of have to go around the airport. They got an airplane coming in, but while we go up the hill, then we'll turn left. We have sugar cane all the way up to, well, that's pineapple up to the left end. It goes all the way to the end up there. In this dark green section right in the middle, this is a fairly new addition to Maui. This is coffee. They brought this here about 2 years ago. I'm not sure they've even produced their first crop yet. And nice little airport. This is the Kapalua West Maui Airport up to our left front. Of course, that's Molokai out across the channel, known as the Friendly Island. That's where you'd also find the only leopard colony in the United States, Kalapapa. About 120 people still live there even today. Straight out across the airport, that big group of buildings is Kahana. Then you kind of go up the shoreline to it's sort of a little depression there, but that's Napili, and it's more residential than anything else. Just beyond that, of course, is the Kapalua area, the northernmost resort. That's where the Ritz and the Kapalua Bay Hotel are located. to be some stables up here a long time ago. Rainbow stables. Now, this road, it goes past Kapalua, and it goes all the way around the north end of the island. Some of the old maps used to say that it did not go all the way around. I don't know whose idea that was. The road's always went around, just hasn't been, just got paved about 5 years ago, but it'll take you about an hour and a half to drive all the way around the north end of the island. It's going to get kind of narrow in a couple of spots up there, but safe enough if you go slow. And it brings us all the way back. When we do land up here, Jason or Corey or Xander is going to come out and open the doors for you and escort you around the front of the aircraft, around by those pickup trucks, and then back to the area where they're assembling over there. Hope you guys enjoy your stay on Maui, though, and have a safe trip home. Sure like to have you back on the island real soon. And probably the best advice I can give you is you need to get on Maui time. It has nothing to do with your wristwatch. It just means you're never late.